Hello, Laterno University. I am Brittany Laporte, and for those of you who may not know me, I'm the resident director for South Hall here on campus. I also get to serve and work alongside the residence life and the student life department. I'm going to be sharing with you guys a little bit on what we have planned for the rest of this video, as well as what we have planned for this upcoming week. We are going to be talking about the subject of self-care and stress management. If you guys know anything about residence life and student life, you guys know that we are so passionate about the overall well-being and care of you guys as students and as individuals. And we are so aware of the fact that a lot of you guys are at home and processing and taking in this very difficult and challenging time. And for some of you guys and for some of us, we are experiencing a high level of stress and anxiety and even just overall confusion. How do we begin to navigate this whole new way of doing life? So you guys are going to hear from Treva Barnum. She's the director of our counseling center. She's going to share with you guys some insight and some practical and knowledgeable tips on how to adopt and incorporate self-care into your daily life, as well as some stress management. You guys are going to hear from some familiar and well-loved faces across campus who are going to share with us their own personal ways on how they are bringing self-care into their daily lives and to their families. We are so excited, and we hope that you guys are able to get some practical resources on how you guys can also begin to include some self-care into your guys' lives as well. We care about you guys. We recognize that this has not been easy on any level. I know for me personally, I am someone who's actually pretty easily prone to stress. So having some kind of self-care goal in mind helps me to be far more intentional on the thoughts that I'm choosing throughout my day. And it helps me to be a better leader. It helps me to be better towards my community and towards my family. And so we know that there are some good things that you guys can be taking away from this week. And we hope to be hearing from you guys. So follow along on Instagram, follow along in your emails, share with us. We are so excited to hear from you guys and how you guys are incorporating self-care into your daily lives. So we hope you enjoy the rest of this video and take some notes on what Treva is going to be sharing with us today. And we hope to hear from you guys soon, and we hope you're doing well, and we're praying for you guys.
Hello everyone, I'm Treva Barham. I am Director for the Center for Counseling at Laterno University. And wanted to let all of you know that we are in the center praying for you. We are praying for each one of you that you would be safe and healthy, that your families would be safe and healthy. And as you guys have transitioned to working from distance for all of your coursework and transition to online, I know that that has been quite the challenge for everyone, especially if your modality of preference is not online. And so just know that we in the center have been praying for you and have been lifting you up, and will continue to do so and keep you close in prayer. I wanted to share a few things with you that may help with this journey, that may provide some helpful hints and maybe encouragement for maybe some of the things that you've already been doing in this transition that we are all facing in new uncharted territory as we deal with COVID-19. It's really normal for you to feel really overwhelmed right now. Let me normalize that for you. You're being asked to adjust to things that you have never had to adjust to, and that can cause some frustration, maybe even some confusion. All of the emotions around that are completely normal. But I hope that at the end of this, that maybe you have a few things that you can try to kind of ease that process and maybe ease some of that transition for you. Acknowledge your feelings. If you're feeling frustrated or discouraged, if you're feeling sad, if you are feeling grief, maybe even some relief, there may be a gamut of emotions. You may not be as bothered as the next person is beside you, or you may feel more overwhelmed. Acknowledge how you feel and know that your feelings are uniquely yours. And even a comparison of that, you don't need to compare your journey in this as to a peer or a parent or a family member. Your process will be your process, and that's okay. But acknowledge those feelings rather than stuffing them, okay? Keep your focus on what some of your needs are. Be mindful of those priorities. So make sure that you are focusing on getting good nutrition, Make sure that you're eating well. Sometimes in transitions like this, where we had a schedule and a routine and we don't have one anymore, meals can be one of the things, as well as sleep, that tends to get shifted or not be consistent. So make sure you're doing both of those things routinely. Also, make sure that you are getting some sort of activity during the day. You don't have to go and run a marathon, but make sure that you are getting 15 to 20 minutes maybe of good exercise. Activity is good, helps us with combating depression and anxiety. And so I encourage you to get active and do a few things. Also, make sure that you're staying connected. Make sure that you are connecting with family members, with friends, the community that you have established even at LeTourneau. Make sure that you're checking in with them. Make sure that you are not neglecting your relationships, as you may feel really isolated. With the beauty of technology, we have some amazing ways to make sure that we're staying connected with classmates, with our faculty, with staff, with mentors, with family members. So make sure you're staying plugged in and connected with people that are important to you. It does require a mental shift sometimes to create a new normal, and maybe no part of this feels normal, and that's okay too. But as you start to find what works for you, what doesn't work for you, some of this is going to be trial and error, because as I mentioned, all of this is a transition and all of this is uncharted territory. And so it's okay that you learn sometimes the hard way whether something works or doesn't work. So maybe reflect at the end of each day what part of your schedule worked out for you, what part of your schedule didn't work out for you. And maybe if you don't have a schedule, implement one. It doesn't need to be incredibly rigid, but carve out space where you can be including the things that I mentioned in terms of prioritizing. So schoolwork, put that in a schedule and make sure you give yourself maybe some breaks. Exercise, meals, and sleep. Make sure you're getting plenty of sleep. And so you might even need to set, hey, I'm not going to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning watching movies or playing games or things like that. Make sure that you are creating some sort of routine so that your body can develop a rhythm that will help you in the long term as we combat COVID-19. Also, make sure that you pace yourself. Rather than expecting that you can sit down in a marathon and get all of your schoolwork done, pace yourself, give yourself some breaks. Whether it's schoolwork or whether it's projects that you maybe are excited that you can complete that you hadn't been able to complete prior to this, rather than trying to get all of it done immediately, pace yourself. Give yourself some time and some space to actually accomplish some of those things. Also, make sure that you are not taking in too much social media and news. I would maybe recommend that if that's a place that you find yourself really getting drawn in and having a difficult time kind of separating yourself, create some boundaries with news and social media. It can be really exhausting to keep up with that. And it can be really draining, not only emotionally and mentally, but also time-wise. So one recommendation that I've made is maybe check it in the morning if you want to kind of see if there's any new news, and then check again maybe a little time before bed, maybe not immediately before bed, so you can kind of relax and calm and do activities that will help you transition to sleep well, but maybe limit your news intake and your social media intake as well. Let me also normalize that there may be a part of this that evokes a sense of grief. Maybe grief that the semester isn't looking quite how you had hoped. Maybe there are lost plans and events and such. All of that is very normal, and allow yourself to the space to actually grieve those transitions and maybe some of those losses. At the same time, you may find yourself with a spirit of gratitude towards certain opportunities or events within the midst of this, and so that's okay. It may be both of those. You may have moments of grief and you may also have moments of gratitude, and both of those can exist simultaneously, and that really is okay. But in each of those, acknowledge where you are and what that space is. As I mentioned before, just watch that you are not comparing your process and how you're handling this transition with others, because it can be really discouraging if you look at others and you maybe see their productivity, you see what they've used their time in this. Maybe you haven't had the energy, maybe this has been difficult for you emotionally and it hasn't been for others. Your journey is your journey, and comparing how you're working through this is not helpful. You may be able to take ideas from other people as to what has worked for them and what isn't working for them, but in terms of comparing how they're doing versus how you're doing, may become more discouraging rather than motivating. It's also really okay to have really big feelings. You may notice that you maybe get more easily frustrated, or something that may seem really superficial or on the surface you get really anxious about or really frustrated about. That's really normal too, because sometimes if we're stuffing our emotions rather than processing them, it's easy to take frustration out on some of the small things. I know for myself, and even my family, I've noticed some of those things where big emotions are coming out, and some of the more maybe insignificant things like an item being left out or something being forgotten, where big emotions come out, and all that's really normal. One way I can encourage you is, if you experience those big emotions, go inward and look at them and say, where's that maybe coming from? What am I actually feeling? Is the emotion I'm feeling towards what actually just happened? Or is there something underneath that I have not yet become aware of, or that I've kind of shoved to the side because I didn't want to deal with it? So acknowledge those emotions. And one way that you can do that is maybe even journaling. Journaling what happened that day, journaling how you felt that day. Notice challenges, notice things that were difficult for you, maybe notice things that you did really well and that you were proud of. And like I mentioned before, being able to acknowledge both the difficult and the positive at the same time is really okay. And it allows us to have many dimensions to our feelings in the midst of, again, a very unprecedented time, even in our history. So I encourage you to journal. I also encourage you to process with people that you trust. So a mentor, a trusted faculty or staff member, a family member, a pastor, someone that you trust that you can actually talk out loud with your feelings about. But I also encourage you guys to reach out to the Center for Counseling. We are actually offering telehealth counseling, and we would be happy to continue to offer services to you. If you're in Texas, we can offer those services. If you are outside of Texas, the SelfCare app has a Talk Now button that you guys can utilize, where they have someone that's licensed in your area. And feel free to reach out if you are not in Texas. Feel free to reach out to me, and I would be happy to see what I can do to locate resources for you in your area if you need any kind of assistance. But SelfCare and the Center for Counseling are both set up for telehealth operations for you guys. And one last point that I want to make is self-compassion leads to self-care behaviors. And self-compassion is this idea that you can be kind to yourself rather than critical to yourself. And when you can acknowledge what you need, you are more likely to do it. But rather than, again, judging yourself for what you may feel like is different, I shouldn't need to do this or shouldn't need to do that, that will actually limit you from doing the things that will actually help lead you toward health. So I hope that you have been able to listen and maybe gain some tips for how to walk through this. But I hope that I also have been able to kind of normalize some of the challenges that you have experienced. Thank you for listening, and I will continue to pray for each one of you. And again, if we can do anything to assist you, please reach out to us. You can reach us at counseling@letu.edu. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Treva. That was great. So I wanted to take a few moments as a staff member of LeTourneau to share with you some practical things that I'm doing in relation to kind of what Treva was saying. So one of those things is I made a list of really targeted ways for me to engage with others. I made a list of all the people who I thought it was important to Zoom or FaceTime during this season of life. Another thing was I have tried to bake a little bit more often because that's something that helps me relieve stress. I also have been listening to more audiobooks. Another thing that's been really helpful is going through spaces in my own apartment that seem to have become cluttered or needed more attention from me. So organizing those spaces. And then having some fun elements in my day. After spending a lot of time on the computer, engaging with students and other faculty and staff, even just doing something fun, So over Christmas I got this toy that is Tiny Pong, and so some days I just practice my Tiny Pong game for about 10 minutes. But I really encourage you to make this your own, to make constructive, good, whether it be lists or some way of talking to your parents about keeping you accountable for these things, but really taking those extra steps to not just say, oh, that's great, Treva, awesome, but really making it your own plan. And I would say don't beat yourself up. If you don't achieve everything, no one's going to tally your score. This is all about you and you being the healthiest version of you during this time. So coming up next, you will hear from Wayne and Karen Jacobs, some of your faculty members, about what they're doing at home in this season.
Hey friends, this is Wayne and Karen Jacobs from LeTourneau University. We are on day, I'm not even sure what anymore, of the shelter in place, and I understand it could be a really stressful time for you guys. We just wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing in order to make the most of our days and make them count.
One of the things we do is try to keep a very much of a daily routine where we try to get up same time every day. We try to get to breakfast and spend time in God's Word and focus our attention. And then we'll spend the next several hours working on classes, talking to students, going through what needs to be done while taking breaks to get up and be active, get good breaks for meals, good activity breaks, exercise, and even walking every night.
I think one of the things I want to encourage you to do is find some joy every day. They can start honestly just going on, and we frequently have to remind ourselves what day it is. Find a little bit of joy every day. Try to savor the moments. You're never going to have another time like this in history, and we are just trying to make the very best of really the gift that God has given us in the midst of this really tragic pandemic. Know that we're praying for you guys. We love you. We're going to make it through.
Stay safe.
Thanks. Here are a few things to know as we wrap up our time together. Thank you, first of all, for watching our video. We hope it's been helpful, and we hope this can be a good time for you as you really grab a hold of the next few weeks and try to do your best in this season. We would love for you to pray with us over the next week. We've included a prayer guide in our email today, and hopefully that can be a source of just getting the ball rolling if you're not already praying for others in this season. We also hope that you will join us on Instagram. On Tuesday at 11 a.m. we will be going live with Treva, and we will be asking your questions, whether you submit them in advance or during the live event. You can email this to juliecaldwell@letu.edu, or just hop on Tuesday and ask your question there. We also have a graphic available to you in our email for an Instagram story to tell us what you're thankful for right now. We would love to interact with you. Our lives are much better, and our work is so much more rich when you are engaging with us. And so we ask that you would join us over the next week and really share a little bit of your life during this season with us. Thanks.